Hi, everyone. This is Rochelle Rizzi with Vrai Nord, and today I'm here with Mike McFall, the co-founder, co-CEO of Bigby Coffee. I'm really excited to bring him to our interview session today. I've known Mike for, I don't know, at least a decade, and been able to watch Bigby Coffee grow in our local hometown of Lansing, but also Lansing, Michigan, but also nationally, and really excited to hear from him today about his personal journey, which I don't know much about. So, Mike, thank you for coming.
Thanks, Rochelle. It's great to be here.
Can you tell us a little bit about your journey into Bigby and just your personal and professional true north story?
Sure. Yeah. When I first got into the business, I had taken I was on a research team at the university on a very, very specific project. And I was preparing to go back to graduate school. It was really what that was about. I was 24 years old. But it was only 20 hours a week. And so I took the opportunity to go in and um, apply at all the different coffee shops in the greater Lansing area. And I happened to get hired at the original store, our original store. We had one store at that point. So I became a barista and I loved it, I think a couple of things happened for me. One, as I just mentioned, I loved being a barista. I loved giving people joy in the morning, right? They'd walk in and it was such a beautiful business to be in. People loved walking into our door. And so, there was that piece of it, but then also I really began to sense an opportunity. And so when my business partner approached me, it was about taking a position of management when they were building the second store. And so, we sat down sort of interview style, Bob and I did, and, we popped up and it was a beautiful spring day and we went for like a 4-hour walk around the campus at Michigan State. And, the end result of that walk was a handshake, and we agreed to set up a company that we would use to grow the concept, grow the brand Bigby Coffee. And so in that handshake, we didn't know what we were doing. We didn't know what we were committing to. Just that, we would be equal partners in that. And then I left my position at the university. I took the assistant manager's job at store one to prepare for being the general manager at store number two. And then the other major decision we made was that we decided that we would go into franchising. And so that entity that we formed was the entity we used to franchise the concept Bigby Coffee. So that's my journey into the concept, into Bigby, into the coffee industry, and so on.
So how many stores are there now?
We have 244 open, but the really exciting number is I believe it's 113 that are under contract to be opened. And
no kidding.
Yeah, that's a big number. And so we've got a whole bunch of growth ahead of us for the next, 12, 15, 18 months.
What kind of timeline from store number two to franchising? How many months or years went by?
We opened the second store in October of 1997, downtown on Capitol Avenue. Mm-hmm. And then we spent the summer of 1998, we decided to franchise, and we spent the summer of 1998 preparing to franchise. So getting the documents ready. And then we became legal to franchise in January of 99. So it was, about 15 months.
Yeah. Okay. That's pretty quick. Did you have people looking to buy in already, or was it just like, well, let's get a plan together and pitch it to people?
No, the reason we ended up in franchising is because our phone was ringing. People were calling to ask us whether it was a franchise or not. The common question was, where is the headquarters based out of? Because we'd like to learn more about the franchise. And then we'd laugh and we'd say, well, it's right here. We've got 2 stores, so there was a fair amount of inquiries. Well, is a young company, it didn't take too many of those phone calls for us to think, well, I wonder if we should consider this franchising model. And then, as you know, we were very fortunate to have Mary Ellen Sheets in town, and we did spend time with her. She was a huge advocate of the franchise model, and she loved the model. She was doing very, very well with it, and so she was a big proponent of franchising, and I think that helped us make that decision as well, because we weren't 100% sure what it might be like to be a franchise system. So Mary Ellen Sheets was pretty influential in moving us in the direction of deciding to become a franchise.
Yeah, and for those who don't know who Mary Ellen is, because this really, we have a whole worldwide audience here. Mary Ellen Sheets started Two Men in a Truck, and I have seen those trucks. These are movers who care. I even know the tagline that's so
Yeah.
well branded. They're everywhere, all over the nation. Everywhere I go, I see them. So, what a great advisor you had in her.
Yeah, and she brought us our attorney, and so she recommended our attorney, and here we are. It's been 23 years, and he's still our attorney. I
Yeah,
love that.
wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, that says something. What were some of the biggest challenges that you faced as a franchisor?
Well, the franchise business model is a really unique model. You bring people into your world who are very accomplished. They have had success in their life for sure, to be able to make that kind of an investment. And so, there's a different mentality in managing a franchise system versus managing a series of retail stores. Frankly, we love that part of it. And so, you bring people in who are, I mean, these people are brilliant, like you get to learn from them as well. But, some of the challenges for us over the years is not every franchise owner is perfect. Some franchise owners are, frankly, have been counterproductive. And so, those are hard situations. And, we've always dealt with and believed in the carrot versus the stick. We've always believed in mentoring and coaching and in demonstrating how productive doing it the right way is, as opposed to, we're sending out, in the last 12 months, we've been sending out our very first compliance letters in the history of our company. And I think a lot of franchisors would fall over thinking, you guys have gotten it to the size you are and you've been at it as long as you have, and you've never sent a compliance letter. It's like, we never did. We always just believed in emphasizing what worked and coaching people in what worked, as opposed to scolding people for not doing it the right way. But in the U.S., the hardest part, or one of the more difficult parts of franchising, it's when you have an owner where the expectations and or philosophies don't line up, and then you're in just a really uncomfortable spot.
Right. And you're talking about like they just don't want to follow, because with franchising, how I understand it is you basically have packaged the branding, the marketing, the processes, the systems, everything's there. So it's not a set it and forget it. But do you think that the mentality of some of those non-compliant owners are more like they just don't know how to fill in the gaps and add to that, or customer service, or
Or
what
they
type of thing?
neglect it, or they neglect the system. They don't engage the system. They never learn the system. um, but there's also really horrible stories too. And this happens in the world where, we've had situations where franchise owners were just really bad people.
Mm,
And you're going to get that. There's no way to build something like this and bet 100% on franchise owners coming into the system. So, we had a situation where a franchise owner was harassing employees and doing really inappropriate things. And so, those are the situations I'm talking about that are just, those are difficult, and so, having to deal with that's never been, but you have that kind of stuff in any business.
yeah, yeah, you're right. And so you are, I almost see it as you're managing the managers, like you're these owners, you have to teach them some of those leadership skills that as a franchise owner, they may not have even thought about the the responsibility and it's just like putting the wrong person in the wrong seat, right? So
Yeah.
if they
I,
don't have that innate ability to lead staff, for example.
yeah, I like to look at it like this. I believe I coach, um, I'm like a coach of a professional sports team. And so, the even the best athletes in their sport in the world need coaches. They need to be grounded in the fundamentals. When things aren't going right, they need somebody to remind them of the fundamentals, right? And that's kind of how I perceive our role is, we try to bring them a lot of data, a lot of information around their store. We definitely try to bring them the systems for them to execute, but then really it's about coaching them, and it isn't even management. It's really about guiding and coaching and mentoring more than anything else.
So what characteristics do you see from your most successful owners?
Well, they believe in and follow the system. And so, what I've always said is this, building a franchise is not a creative endeavor. And, if you're going to worry about, what kind of carpeting goes on the floor or what color the walls are going to be, or, a franchise is not for you. And you got to be really clear about that. Right. And so, but really it's about being good at executing, learning and executing in this system. And if you went and interviewed our top 20 franchise owners, I am sure that all 20 would say that the key to being successful in the business is following the system. And the part of that that people need to understand is that system has been perfected by our community for 25 years. So it's not just me and Bob and our people. I mean, we have really smart franchise owners who bring us and say, "Hey, guys, this system here, we need to make improvements. This isn't working. That's not working." So you have the collective wisdom of 240 really, really smart people bringing input to that system. And then, oh, by the way, some of the best feedback we ever get is from our baristas. So when Bob and I will go and have an engagement with a group of baristas, some of the best stuff we ever get is from the baristas. So, it's not just the 240 owners, it's also the 2,500, 2,700 baristas out there that are bringing us the collective wisdom on the systems. So, that's one of the powerful components of franchising that most people don't understand. Why do franchises so often thrive when independents sometimes don't, or franchises, you have much better chance of succeeding and building a successful business inside of a franchise in food service retail for sure than you do by going independent. The reason is because you have this collective wisdom bringing value to the entire group day in and day out, where an independent owner, it's them and them, and they're trying to figure everything out by themselves.
Right. Oh, yeah, I can speak to that 100% as an entrepreneur myself. How nice it is to have a community, finding those like-minded people. So you built that within your franchise owners. So are most of your owners working in the day-to-day operations?
Yeah,
Are
we
they there every
require it.
day?
We
Okay.
require it for the first 12 months. And so, our contract, somebody asked me yesterday whether this was still in the contract. I believe it is, but I'd have to go back and double check. But it wasn't too long ago that it read in the contract that the owner had to be on the floor, out front, running one of our positions with an apron on 6 hours a day for the first year.
I
And
think that
so,
makes a lot of sense.
yeah, it's not just about being the manager owner. It's about learning how to be a barista. It's about learning how to be a manager. And so, yeah, we require you, like, we would never take if a group of four doctors wanted to pool some money together and make an investment and build a couple of stores and hire somebody to run it. That's not a scenario we do.
Right. Well, here's the thing, it's you have no empathy for your team if you've never felt the pain points or
Right,
been able
right,
to walk
right.
through a customer service situation or whatever the case may be. But, I tend to lead groups of creative people. I don't think that I can successfully do that unless I have already had 24 years of being in the weeds already. So I see a lot of value in that. And I think that's very honorable. I like that idea a lot.
Yeah, I think it's one of the things that made us successful because, you know, or at least got us to where we are today, is because if you weren't willing to make that commitment
Mm-hmm.
to put an apron on and be out front 6 hours a day, then we didn't want you as a franchise owner.
Right. So what makes your beans different?
You know, there's so much to that question. You know, we're in the midst of doing all kinds of work in relation to farm direct, and so building relationships around the world with farmers and buying the beans directly from them. My partner Bob's deep in the middle of that. You know, and he's working hard to build those relationships. But you know, the thing there's a lot of you know, one of the things that we have is we have a roaster that has, I think, 85 years experience. They've been in the business forever. It's Paramount Coffee. They roast our coffee to our specification. And, you know, it is, what makes our coffee better too, though, is the systems in place at the store. So, you know, coffee, what ends up in the cup is one part the bean you buy, how it's roasted, how it's packaged, how it's delivered, how it's stored. Like there's all of that, so that the bean that goes into the coffee maker is appropriate. But from that moment forward, you can screw up that cup of coffee 300 different ways, even with the right bean, right? So then it's about following the right procedures around the espresso machine, around the brewers, so that the espresso that comes from that cup is perfect, right? Or as close to perfect as we can make it. And so, you know, so much of everything I just talked about is about process and procedure of getting a green coffee bean from some other place in the world through an entire process to end up in a cup. And yeah, you got to pick the right bean and it's got to be roasted the right way. But that's a very small part of whether or not the coffee in the cup works or not.
Yeah, I think that makes a lot of sense. And Paramount Coffee is an amazing partner for you. I've toured
Unbelievable.
their facility, and we did a couple projects for them a couple years ago with my marketing agency. Great group of people.
Yeah,
Um,
I mean they're more than a vendor. I mean, they've very much been a partner. And when I say that, I mean I don't think they would mind disclosing that at times throughout the history of our company, they've lent us money, and they've been deeply involved in the growth of our company.
wow, that's
Yeah,
awesome. Thank you
yeah.
for being so transparent about that.
Well, I don't
But
think
that's
it.
what a true partner is, right? Like you're in it together.
Yeah. Yeah, and you know, we just had a meeting earlier today where we've uncovered some stuff that's happening in relation to pricing that's been difficult for them and detrimental to their business. And so, you know, we're figuring out how to, you know, move forward in a different way and get the situation, get the relationship back into a healthy place.
Wow. And I can only imagine how you're both being affected because right now we're recording this in December of 2020. We've
Mm.
all survived nearly 10 months of this COVID pandemic. What kinds of things have you had to adjust to due to this? And how are you helping your franchise owners?
Well, you know, I think one of the things that um, I have been has really been and become apparent is how strong the franchise model is. And you know, I'm on this and it sounds like I'm like, you know, president of the International Franchise Association or something, but you know, it is, you know, when this thing went down, we started a daily Zoom call with all of our owners, and it was at 3 o'clock every single day, and we would present what was happening, what we'd learned. We would present issues that needed to be resolved, and you know, the amount of productivity that came out of the franchise owner community was really extraordinary. And so, you know, one quick example. You know, we had on a Zoom call early on in the process. One of our franchise owners said, "Hey, you know, I ran up to Home Depot and I designed a plexiglass shield for our cash registers and for the baristas." And then, you know, he took pictures of it and he showed it to everybody on the Zoom call. And this is before anybody was putting up plexiglass. And he said he goes, it really has made a difference for the baristas. They feel safer, right? They feel like there's a barrier between them and the virus. And so, you know, next thing you know, there's like, you know, I don't know how many, a bunch of our franchise owners went out and did the same thing. So all of a sudden, within a 24 hours, I bet we had a third, maybe even up to like a half of our stores that had plexiglass in the stores. And this is before anybody else had plexiglass. And
Mhm.
you know, I could list off 20 things that were like that for us through COVID. And we were able to keep our stores open. We were able to keep everyone safe. Uh, and we were able to maintain our business, and frankly our business is thriving
Mhm.
right now for sure. Now there is a segment of our stores that are suffering, and we have to be really cognizant of that because there's people that are losing real money around this, and that's a lot many of the lobby only stores where you know the drive-through stores are just crushing it. I mean, it's unbelievable what's going on in the world right now. We do have lobby only stores that are suffering, and so that's unfortunate. And we're hopeful that we can get through it and get to the other side of it and have them start growing their businesses again. But yeah, we've learned a ton. But what I wanted to state is the franchise business model was critical, and the reason why is I believe our consumers knew and understand that there is an owner of that store who is taking care of those employees, taking care of the employee safety, taking care of the customer safety, and it made people feel better about going into the store. And you know, I'll contrast that with Starbucks. Starbucks struggled in this. We'll see what the end result is. I mean, they're Starbucks, so they're going to be fine. But you know, they didn't handle the pandemic as well as I think they could have. And I think we handled it really, really well. And that's to the credit of the local owner.
Mhm. Well, in which way do you think they didn't handle it as well?
I think they were really conservative. I don't think they had confidence that they could run stores and keep people safe,
Mm.
where we did. You know, we believed in our local franchise owner. We believed that they would do the right things and that they
Mhm.
would keep people safe
Mhm.
and that they'd be conscientious. And so, you know, it was just confidence, and it proved out. It proved out. They were great.
So, one of the things that's coming to mind, as we talk about our True North stories, and you have all of these franchise owners, what reward are they feeling as a franchise owner? Like, what makes them feel like they're on the right path in life because they've chosen this? What kind of things do you hear from them?
Well, you know, everybody's so different, but, you know, I think they really appreciate a profitable business. I mean, that's the fundamental. I mean, that's what we do. We support people in building profitable retail stores. I mean, that's our business. And so and people really appreciate having profitable businesses and strong balance sheets and the ability to grow. And but you know, I think there's more to it. I mean, I think, you know, our organization, the purpose of our organization is to support you in building a life that you love. And that's what we show up to work every day attempting and trying to do. And our franchise owners are a huge part of that. So, you know, our organization is keyed up on supporting our franchise owners and building a life that they love. Our business is keyed up on supporting you in building a life that you love however we can. We don't know how we're going to do that, but that's our purpose. And so, you know, I think that's important for a lot of our owners in that so much of what we bring to the table is not just, hey, this is how you build a successful coffee shop. So much of what we bring to the table is based around our values, our commitment, our purpose, and they understand that. And so now that doesn't mean that they line up perfectly with our purpose or our values because everybody's different. But we had a conversation with somebody. I remember it was over the summer where we were having a difficult conversation about a position that Bob and I took on something that they didn't agree with, you know, and and you know, the end of the conversation was, I love you. I disagree with you on this particular point, but does that mean we can't love each other? And I will support you that you believe that, and that's something that's important to you. That's fine, right? And so we all don't have to have the same perspectives and the same nuances to love each other. And I think that's one of the things that our organization has been really good at, which is taking people and supporting them in their pursuits, in their passions. And I don't know, it seems to be working.
Well, I think that's very powerful. I have a client who, uses the hashtag lead with love. And I think that that really plays into all successful businesses. And I really appreciate that. If you were to be talking to a business who wanted to franchise, what would be like your top 10, list 10 things, but what would be the best advice you can give them? Where do they start and what do they need to consider?
Well, our franchise was successful because our stores were super successful. So, our original stores did really, really well. And franchises, the fundamental of a franchise is that franchise owner is going to be profitable when they open. And you have to focus on that. And that you have to make that happen. If you don't make that happen, there's no successful franchise, right? So the business fundamentals around the concept that you're franchising are critical. I mean, absolutely critical. I think that understand that these will never be your employees. It is a different animal, and you're engaging a very different kind of person in a franchise model than you are employees. And we happen to think that's a great thing. But I also hear in the franchising industry that many people who franchise get frustrated by that, right? And so really get into and understand the mentality of somebody that's going to open one of your businesses, and are you comfortable with that? I think being really confident in your brand and your branding, it's something that we've always been really good at, is our branding, right? That the whole opportunity to represent the Bigby brand has been one of the things that we've thrived around. And so, but in branding, it's one of the fundamentals inside of a franchise is how powerful is the brand. But then with that, you have to protect that brand with everything you have, right? And so, I think that understanding the importance of the brand, there's some real fundamental things like that I would make sure that a franchisor got put into their contracts. Like one thing that we've always done is we collect our money. And just like the state sales tax, in Michigan, when that 6 cents goes in your drawer, that's not your 6 cents. That's the state's 6 cents. And that, and they know that. Well, when that money goes into the drawer, a percentage of that is royalty to us. And that's not your money. That's our money, right? And if that brand is up, we get that money. And so that's another fundamental in franchising, which is oftentimes franchisors get themselves in the spot where they're not collecting the way they should be. And so, well, I could go on and on. I'll leave it at that. I could keep going, but those are some of the things.
Well, those are really good considerations. What's next for you, Mike? What are you working on right now as a human being?
I am in the middle of writing my second book. And so, my first book landed October of 2018. Yeah, 18. And so book two is it's called Grind. It's right here.
I saw it behind you.
It's called Grind, and it's about business startup, right? And entrepreneurship. Book two is a book on management. And so that book is going to be titled Grow, I think. And so that's one of the major things I'm working on. I'm still adjusting. I'm teaching a class here at the university in Ann Arbor, and I'm still adjusting to that and learning and figuring out how to do that as well as I can. And then my function at Bigby is still that my day job is still the lion's share of what I do. And so, I still look forward to waking up every day and growing Bigby and continuing to bring value to that company. I got 4 kids just like you. And so like, that's a big part of what I do is take care of my kids and my household and so on.
Yeah, well, you have your hands full, but you've definitely made the most of your time, and I really appreciate the gift of your time today.
Oh, it's been great.
And I wish you the best with your next book, and I'll be sure to pick up the first one. I haven't read that. I'll admit it, but I will. And I'm really excited for you and the journey that you've been on. And I hope that this story has helped other people as they consider how they're going to scale their business in 2021 and beyond, to think about franchising as a possibility for them.
Cool. Wonderful.
Well, thank you. Thanks so much, Mike.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me.